Doug MPA back with another video. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button on the way in. I'd really appreciate it. It shows you support me and the content on this channel. I've been a UFC fan for a long time. I've been an MMA fan longer than that. UFC President Dana White got caught on camera on New Year's Eve in Cabo, Mexico, slapping his wife. And I'm going to call that the $500 million slap. He's worth $500 million. He get caught on camera slapping his wife. He is in deep trouble. He could lose his job. He could lose everything. I found this video on Fox News, and it has a couple of really good takes on it, so we're going to get into it right now. Let's get into it.
Back to the Factor Uncensored, a volatile New Year's Eve for UFC President Dana White. He and his wife were spotted slapping each other. Now
they're going to show it here. Now watch. The video starts, and he's going to start restraining her. And then she slaps him, and then he slaps her back. Watch.
The incident was caught on camera in a New Year's Eve nightclub in Cabo, Mexico. No word on what happened, but
you got to operate like there are cameras everywhere. If you leave the house, there are cameras everywhere. And I don't know what they were fighting about. That could be worth $500 million. In fact, this whole video, when you think about $500 million, let's continue.
Beforehand, but White has since apologized, saying there are no excuses for putting your hands on his wife. Now,
in 2016, Dana White did an interview and said, because there have been a couple of UFC fighters and MMA fighters that have gotten in trouble with domestic violence. Out of his own mouth, he said the one thing you don't come back from is hitting a woman. Those were out of his own words. So I wonder how he's going to handle this.
The video has many people wondering if mutual combat can exist between couples.
At the bottom line, you should never put your hands on anyone. And sometimes people don't recognize that women can also be abusive. So you're right on it. There is common couple violence. And what that means in the relationship, they're in a cycle of violence. And
I like what you said, because I don't know if you guys know this, but 70% of abusive couples, it's mutual. So the guy hits the woman and the woman hits the guy. And I like what this woman said. She said, nobody should put their hands on anybody. I wish we'd all navigate that way, especially women. Let's hear her continue.
So what's important is to really understand there's destructive and constructive ways of dealing with conflict, because all of our relationships have some kind of conflict, but how are we dealing with it? Now, theirs got exposed. It's important for all of us to look at, do we have the same types of behaviors? No one hasn't seen it yet.
No.
Yeah, once again, I'm probably going to say it a couple more times. Cameras are everywhere. A lot of people used to be able to hide stuff in their homes or in their private lives. Not anymore. Once you leave the house, is pretty much assume it's going to be caught on camera.
Oh, Dr. Billiard, what we also heard Dana White tell TMZ is that this has never happened before. It was the alcohol, with some very public licks, what we call licks like that. It seems like there may have been some history of this. What are your thoughts on this? We don't know definitively.
Right.
What are your thoughts in seeing what you saw in Cabo with him on the video?
So Dana White also said that they've been married for 30 years. They go through their ups and downs and stuff. So again, this behavior doesn't come out of nowhere. I think, once again, it was just caught on camera.
For sure. And I do just want to say, whenever we see a couple going through this, it's important to recognize that this is serious. So it's not something to be taken lightly. Yeah, there may be a history. Who's to say? But even if this was the first incident, now there is a history. Mm-hmm. So that's why it's really important for intervention. And not just for this couple, but really for all of us to say, how do I handle conflict in my relationships? Because it could be the abuser and the one that is receiving abuse, or both, as you mentioned with mutuality. But then there's also the bystanders, which are all of us. And we have a role in it too. And we see something, everyone in that club was exposed. Mm-hmm. So it's important to also recognize that all of us have a role when it comes to really trying to decrease violence in relationships.
Greg, let's hear from you.
I kind of see where she's coming from. I've seen a lot more people stand around and watch violence happen instead of getting involved. And I'm kind of in that camp. If the days of white knighting and jumping to save people without knowing what's going on are just gone. So I kind of understand what she's talking about. You can say it's your responsibility until you're there, and you have to think about your personal well-being. Will you get sued for getting involved? the days of just jumping to help people are over. Sorry.
I'll start with my initial question. Is there a thing such as mutual combat between or involving a couple?
Well, I would have to say there is a time when there is such a thing as mutual combat. You know, coming from a law enforcement background, Isaiah, you have to take into consideration that sometimes that couples elevate the level of violence where it becomes self-defense. And the woman can be the aggressor.
Really quick, Greg, I've had several women who
I like what he said there. The woman can be the aggressor. And I would offer in today's day and age, women are more often the aggressors now more than men, because men, for at least 4 generations, we've had it told to us that the consequences of putting your hands on a woman, but women haven't had the same education and same training. I'd argue that women have been emboldened to put their hands on men, but that's just me.
Experience abuse on, and they would always tell me, well, I thought I was just in a fight. But then they became the abuse victim. So continue on with what you're saying.
Well, I think because of the traditional way of thinking throughout history is that men are supposed to be chivalrous and they're never supposed to put their hands on a woman. And both men and women were raised with that belief. The problem is that we've, I guess, evolved into a society where women still believe that and men don't.
And what started that? I want you to go to Google right now and type in "women are stronger than men." Look at all the articles about how women are emotionally, sometimes physically, mentally, in every way stronger than men. It's out there. And we're generations deep into this. Or even equality. They say that women are equal to men. You have all these movies where 100-pound women are knocking out 200-pound dudes. You reap what you sow.
So you're really taking a risk when you attack a man. And I'm surprised no one has brought up the situation with Ray.
Oh, this Ray Rice situation really, really hit. You guys remember that one? And I want you to, they have a special out now where they interviewed him about that day and what led to that. And his wife was, there's no excuse for him knocking her unconscious, but she even admitted she wasn't the best that day, and it was a whole big thing. And she married him. She's still with him. He's a personal trainer in Pennsylvania because he can't get on a football team. And I wonder what their conversations are like when he's collecting that little paycheck from being a personal trainer instead of being an NFL running back. I wonder how Thanksgiving dinners go at their house.
Rice and his wife, because it was very similar. Whether or not alcohol was involved, I don't know. But she slapped him initially, and he retaliated and slapped her back, causing her to lose her balance and obviously knocked her unconscious when she hit her head. But in this case, I could see Dana White defending himself. I'm not saying he had to slap her, but he took it a step further because he continued to go after her until his friends intervened. So at that point, it stopped being mutual combatants. Now it was for her trying to defend herself against him.
And they keep showing this video. I wonder what they could have been fighting about. And if Dana White loses his job, he helped build that company from the ground up. And he might lose his job because of a fight with his wife. This is crazy to think about.
And Greg, what has been your opinion, or what have you seen in the public when it comes to men who hit women back? Do they suffer the brunt of the public pressure more so than the woman who may have initiated the fight?
We all know the answer to that question. Guys, don't put your hands on women. Just walk away. Because there's the court of public opinion still will deem you guilty if you're caught putting your hand. Don't put your hands on women. Walk away. You will lose.
I would say that they do suffer the brunt of the public punishment, but at the same time, a lot of it is deserved because you have a culture that's been bred and raised that it is acceptable in a lot of circles to put your hands on a woman. Just listen to some of the things that come out of hip hop music. It's not respectful of women. And so it breeds that type of mentality.
It's not hip hop music, dude. It's ephemism. We all know it. It's female empowerment, equality have raised a group of women to think that they can fight men, and boys thinking that women are equal to them, so it's okay to fight. Hip hop music has nothing to do with it, buddy. So knock it off.
And what gets me, it's so sad that when this type of thing does happen, most of the public just stands around and watches.
Mhm.
You know, it was fortunate for her, people intervened, but what were the rest of the people in that club doing? It didn't seem like they were making any effort to stop it, and the DJ kept playing the music. You know, so it just showed you, even though it was out of this country, but it still seemed like that was acceptable behavior, or people weren't offended.
And Dr. Billiard, for the individual who finds himself caught in a situation, and we're talking about the male in the relationship where they're hit, how do you control that reaction? Because 9 times out of 10, you're not even thinking.
Right.
You're reacting. So how do you control that without automatically lashing out back again?
That is such a good question, because one thing we know physiologically, it takes our body 15 minutes to calm down. So you're not in a place of rational thinking. So if you can
I really, really like this lady, Dr. Belliard. All right, you look at her.
remove yourself. The problem is some of us, when we are really feel like we're attacked, our initial reaction is to attack back.
Mhm.
So if you can even just take a breath and think about what it will mean, just like Gregory mentioned, for me to retaliate. So if you can step back, that's how a bystander can be helpful. Go to a friend and say, yo, y'all need to get her. It can be that simple that can change the whole outcome.
That was great advice. Once again, we saw the $500 million slap multiple times. Dana White's in trouble. New update is that he went on TMZ to state what happened, didn't apologize for it, but Endeavor hasn't issued a statement. UFC hasn't issued a statement. There was some power slap league that was supposed to come out that's not going to come out on TBS anymore. Dana White's power slap league. How ironic. Make sure to comment. Do you think it's equal rights means equal lefts? Do you think mutual combat is a thing? Do you think that men should walk away from women if they get hit? Let me know what you think in the comments. Like, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.